Casceila Miller, and I teach 5th grade in the Walla School District. And today I'm going to be presenting to you guys about writing opinion papers in 5th grade. And the population I teach is generally pretty low language, so I do a lot of scaffolding and a lot of gradual release. I'll move a little faster with you guys because you have mastered English and are grown-ups. So, so I'll be moving a little bit faster, but you'll sort of get the idea. And so this is going to be part of a 6-week unit on the study of explorers coming to North America. And up until this point, we'll have been working as a class on European exploration. And they're going to look at primary sources, and they're going to analyze the effects of Europeans coming to the Americas, and they're also going to look at the perspective of the explorers and the Native Americans. So we're going to look at both sides. So say, according to the Europeans, this was, destiny, and this was great, and this was their purpose, and blah, 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 and then look at the Native perspective and say, well, really, was it? And so the culminating project of this whole unit will be a 2-week writing thing with opinion papers, and they're going to be assigned a question. They're either going to have to answer whether European exploration was beneficial to North America, or whether or not it was harmful to North America. And I'm going to assign the opinions, so no matter what they think, they may have to look at another side, which is a big step for 5th graders to be able to do, because their idea is it. So this lesson is going to focus on analyzing anchor papers that I pulled off of the Teachers College reading the writing project and off of stuff through Smarter Balance. And so they're going to look at papers written by actual 5th graders. And they're going to analyze and sort of talk about what a good opinion paper has. And so this is the first day of we're writing opinion papers. And they're going to have to talk with the group and talk with their partner and themselves, use their own head. And so the things that I'm trying to get them to is that opinion papers need strong evidence from text. The opinion must be really clearly stated. That the paper stays focused, because they like to wander. The evidence supports the opinion, it's not just random. And that it's organized in a way that makes sense. So those are the things we're going to look for, and I have a fun graphic organizer, of course, to fill out as we do that. So the learning target for today is to understand and identify the elements of the quality opinion paper. So to start this out, I'm going to sort of make you do what I'd make the 5th graders do. Again, like I said, they're generally lower language, so some of the kids don't know what the word opinion means. They don't. And so I say, well, what's your opinion? I don't know what you mean, missus. We'll talk about that. So I like to play a game called One or the Other, and in this game, they have to choose between 2 things, and they have to be able to justify their reason for choosing them. So I need everyone to stand up, please. Humor me. It'll be great, I promise. So in this particular game, I'm going to have you either go to one side of the room or the other based on your preference of 2 things that I give you. And when you get there, you have to turn to a partner and you have to explain why you prefer that. So you have to have evidence to justify your reason. Any questions? And with the kids, I do an example, but you guys are grown-ups. So our first, if you prefer chocolate milk, you need to go to this side. If you prefer regular milk, you go to this side. And then find a partner and justify your reason. All right. Would anyone like to share their reason for why they chose a particular side? Great volunteers. Sorry?
I chose regular milk because I feel like it goes with more varieties of foods.
Good. I like your because good justification. What about chocolate milk side? Any reason you prefer?
I chose chocolate milk because I can't drink milk. It makes me feel terrible. And so if I'm going to drink it, I've got to have the chocolate.
Good. So those are 2 different opinions on a subject. Okay, we're going to do one more. My kids are nuts about soccer, so I usually do that. So American football on this side, soccer on this side. Which Alright, go ahead. American football people.
They're always loud.
I know, it's their football games. Would anyone like to share their justification for their opinion? Okay.
I love to go to football games. I chose American football. I love the energy in the game and the stands and all the yummy food you get to eat when you go.
Soccer people.
I like that the action goes on all the time. There's no dead time in a soccer game like there is football.
Good. So when we were deciding which we prefer, what were we forming? What was the word for that? Opinion. Okay, good. So my next step with that, usually the kids have notebooks that we write everything in. So I would take, oh, this is going to be fun. I'm left-handed, so it will be sideways and then I'll turn it. So what I would do in their notebooks, and the kids would write this with me, I would write the word opinion, and then I'd have them work in their partner group. I have the kids sitting in groups of 2. They would work together to write their own definition of what an opinion is. So go ahead, try to talk with your partner. How would you define opinion based on what you already know and what we just did in class? Would anyone like to share their definition of opinion with the class? Anyone? Think about it. Okay, so what do you think about a topic? Good. Does anyone want to add to that or argue with that?
You said it was strong feelings that you have about something.
Okay.
Based on evidence.
Aha, thank you. That was my next question. So one of the most important things when we're writing an opinion paper is the fact that we have evidence. So it is a feeling, it is what we think, but you have to have it backed up by evidence. And I always tell the kids, if they don't have evidence, I don't believe them. So, no pressure. So, backed up by evidence. So today we're going to look at papers written by real 5th graders, and we're going to decide what an opinion paper has, so that when you write your own opinion papers, and the students write their own opinion papers, they know what they're looking for. And the hope is, especially with kids that don't have a lot of exposure to stuff like this, is that they'll emulate that in their own work. So I'm going to pass out a graphic organizer. It has spots for, we're going through 3 papers. I'll model one, we'll do one as a group, and then you'll try one on your own. And then we'll go through that. So everyone's going to get one of those. And I'm going to pass out our first paper, which is called Killing Plants. And I would read this out loud with the kids.
So I know you're looking for the components, but are you also looking for the organization of the piece, or is that something you would bring in later?
It's something that sort of makes itself evident.
Okay.
So all the examples that I'm using today are examples like of level 2 work pulled from. I have the websites written down on my unit and link that should go up and stuff. But so they're examples of what it should look like. And opinion writing is one of the 5th grade Common Core things. So so I'm going to stop, you know, you haven't gotten all the way through. So we have our graphic organizer here. And so we're going to go through, are you guys okay if I'm writing sideways? So what is the title of our first paper? It's Killing Plants. So I'm going to write the title right here.
I bet that top thing turns for me. Is the thing.
Does it turn? Am I just not smarter than the technology?
I don't think that one does. It does not turn.
So as I'm reading through this, my first question is, what is the author's opinion? So I'm going to go through my paper and I'm going to sort of scan because we've already read it. And I would give the kids highlighters for this because highlighters are like the pinnacle of excitement in 5th grade. So as I'm reading through this, I come to this spot where it says people should stop cutting down trees. And I know based on our definition that an opinion was what we think about a topic. And I think that's probably what the author thinks about the topic. They come out and they just say it. So I'm going to highlight that. people should stop cutting down trees. And then I'm going to write that in the box. So people should stop cutting down trees. The tech people who are KP because everything's always backwards from how they want to set it up. All right, so how can I tell that that's the author's opinion? Well, it's bold letters, which is a pretty good indicator, right? If something's in bold, that means the author really wants me to pay attention to it. So I'm going to write that it's in bold letters. And as I read through the rest of the text, and I look at the author's evidence, so we know their opinion is people should stop cutting down trees. Then they say if we cut down too many trees, we won't get enough pure oxygen to breathe. So I know that I need oxygen to breathe, and without that, I probably wouldn't be able to breathe very well, which would be a problem. So I think that that's something that I'm going to underline because it's evidence that supports their opinion. It also says down here, if we don't stop getting rid of plants for other reasons, we'll starve to death. Which makes me think that plants are kind of important because I like to eat. So that's important. And then down here they also say we have enough paper already, we don't need any more. Besides, we already have the technology to recycle it. Unfortunately, more paper is going in the trash can than the recycle bin. So they say we have enough paper already. So one thing that I'm noticing is that I can tell about the author's opinion is that their evidence tells me more about their opinion. The evidence tells me more. So for example, oxygen and food. And then one thing that authors do when they have an opinion is they use certain words and strategies. So when I was reading through this, I noticed that the author does a lot of things to make me notice their opinion. So again, they use those bold letters. And then the author uses certain words. And we've learned before that authors use words to make us think a certain way. And so they use words like should or unfortunately. And they use words like agree. And all of these things are words that the author uses that sort of makes me go, oh, they don't like that so many trees get cut down. For what else I notice, because kids will notice things that I might have missed, or there's stuff that I have not yet found an efficient way to categorize. Yeah.
I was saying, I noticed cause and effect.
Yes.
Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So that's okay.
That was interesting.
So yeah, we notice the cause and effect. So the author says, this happens, and that makes this happen. So if we don't have trees, we don't have oxygen, which is a problem. Talk about food. So we have cause and effect. I also noticed that the author has 3 pieces of evidence, and then they tell me more about each of those pieces of evidence. So 3 pieces of evidence plus details. And I also noticed that all of their evidence sticks to their topic. They don't talk about trees are pretty and I like to look at them in the summertime. They actually have these good, solid pieces of evidence that explain to us why people should stop cutting down trees. So the evidence supports their opinion. Just like when we did our either or game, people's evidence supported what they thought. And where do you think this evidence comes from? Do you think they made it up in their heads, or did it come from somewhere? Any ideas? Maybe a text?
See, the first one with the transforming water, carbon dioxide into natural sugar, all of that had to have come from a text.
Yes.
As a 5th grader. But the other two could have come from what they already know.
It's true. So yeah, the evidence comes from probably a reliable source. They don't have a source list with this, but I'm guessing the evidence came from somewhere. Okay, good. So are there any questions about how we did that? Okay. So what you're going to do now, our rapid release, and again, this would take a couple of days. I wouldn't do this all in 45 minutes for your 10-year-olds. Is I'm going to have you turn to paper number 2. And paper number 2 is about chocolate milk. And this time we're going to work together. And so you guys are going to read through the paper and underline anything that, or highlight anything that you think is important, anything that you notice from our chart, so that we can discuss that as a group. So I'm going to give you, how much time do you guys need to actually do that? 4 or 5 minutes? Yeah, okay. All right, I'm going to have you sort of come back, since this is still technically the we do portion of it. So what is the author's opinion here? Does anyone have any idea based on what we read?
You should offer chocolate milk pretty much daily in a cafeteria.
All right,
And nothing else.
Schools should offer. Schools should serve chocolate milk. And how did you know that that was the author's opinion? First sentence.
Yeah.
Okay. Schools should serve chocolate milk. And it's the first sentence. Has anyone noticed a pattern about how we can tell what the author's opinion is yet in the 2 papers that we've read about?
Towards the beginning.
Towards the beginning?
And they virtually tell you right out what it is. I mean,
Okay.
They're very direct.
Very direct, yeah. Is it a
We have to
secret what
infer
the
it.
author's opinion is? Yeah,
No.
we don't have to challenge. We don't have to infer it, yes. Good. Did anyone pick up on any words or strategies that the author uses? Expert witness.
Mhm.
Okay, so they have expert witnesses, and what do you mean expert witness?
Like Katie Couric and a famous nutritionist.
Okay, good. So they have Katie Couric, nutritionist.
They use words like because, research shows.
Because research shows
According.
according. So why is it a good idea when you write an opinion paper to have research and say that research shows this? Why would that be a good idea?
So research can sway people when, when there's numbers or percentages to prove something.
Okay. What if I just want to make a percentage set?
You shouldn't, that's wrong.
That's true. Okay, so that's a good point. It's wrong to make up those numbers. So where should all that information come from? Evidence, text, sources. Good. Anything else? Words or strategies that the author uses?
They have a good rebuttal.
Yeah.
They bring in the opposing argument.
Oh, good.
They rebut against it.
So they talk about the other side. And that's not something that I would require the kids to do at this point, since this is probably their first exposure with it. But if there were those kids that were there, that would be a good extension for them. Talking about the other side.
And statistics.
Statistics. You guys are good at this. And is there anything else we noticed? Do you notice anything about like how it's structured or the evidence? Anything that might be similar to the one that I showed you before about killing plants?
They both had a conclusion, which we didn't talk about.
Oh, good. Yeah. And what did the conclusion inclusion tell us?
This one was listy, where they kind of relisted their, which isn't most effective, but the other one was actually, I thought I wrote that one.
Okay.
It's kind of a last thought, you know, before you end the paper.
The conclusion showed a good cause and effect though. If you take away the chocolate milk, I'm about to be in Coke.
I was just looking at the last line where it's just
Oh, the
listed.
very, very last one. So keep chocolate milk, kids' main source. Good. All right, anything else we notice as we do that? Okay. So I do have one more, but are you guys sort of getting the idea? I won't make you suffer through reading another one and doing another one of these if you're getting it. So the third one, what I would do, I'll pass it out to you if you want it, and then have it. It's called Wild Animals, and it's about whether animals should be kept in zoos or free. And so this one is actually in kid handwriting, but I would have the students go through it. That one I probably, with the kids, I would have done a lot more guided and a lot more as a group rather than, you know, again, rapid release. But this I would have them work either independently or partners, and I usually let the kids at that point choose whether they want to work with a buddy or not, because some kids at that point just want to do it and figure it out, and some kids still need that help. And so at that point too, I would walk around and help with kids and pull a small group of kids that were just not getting it and work through that with them. And we do the same thing. What do we notice? How does the author persuade? And over the course of these 3 papers, there should be some themes that start to come out about what opinion papers have. And so that's where this last part comes in play. So after they'd had a chance to go through paper number 3, and then we'd sort of go through it together and fill it out again for those kids that, I have a lot of kids that struggle with just the language of everything. So, so I try and give them as much support as possible. And then seeing those, you know, like talking with the kids that get it helps, seems to help a lot. So, the things that all of these papers have in common. So what was something that we noticed that they all had in common?
Evidence.
Evidence, perfect. Yes, and is it just random evidence? What does the evidence do?
Supports their reasons
Yes, evidence
or their claim.
supports their claim or opinion.
And clearly stated opinion.
Okay, clearly stated opinion at the beginning. Good. Anything else we noticed? How did every single one of those organize their papers? Did they just have evidence all over the place, or did they say a piece of evidence and then tell us more about it? How did they go about doing that? Turn and talk with your partner. How did they organize their evidence? How did they organize their evidence? Was it organized? Was it all over the place?
Each paragraph focused on one reason or example. And
Paragraph.
supported it with evidence, and in which they supported their reason with evidence.
Okay. So each paragraph was a piece of evidence that supported. Good. So we go through and we talk about all those things, and when I went through this and looked through it, I felt like I pretty much wrote down the same things in every box for how it was organized. So hopefully the kids would pick up on that. Then one thing that I do a lot with my kids is goal setting, because they don't really have an idea of what it's supposed to look like at the end. So at the bottom, when I write my own opinion paper, I will make sure and as to not overwhelm them, I usually have them come up with 2 things that they're going to do when they write their own opinion paper. And they're going to choose 2 things from what we noticed about all the opinion papers. So, for example, if I were a student that was thinking about this. A student could write, they're going to have evidence from sources. And at this point in the unit, we already have sources that we've worked through, so they'll have that information. It's just a matter of putting it into the right spots. And then maybe the student wants to work on a good conclusion that summarizes paper. And these will be all different based on what each kid is trying to do. So I would have them do that and write out what they're going to make sure they do. Any questions? And again, the ultimate goal is that they know what pieces they're supposed to have, and then the two that they're just really going to focus on. And then one thing that I have in my classroom that the kids love, because they get to play with sticky notes. Not play with sticky notes, but you know what I mean. I have a board by my door, and it says, "What stuck with you?" And so at the end of a lesson or a unit, everyone gets a sticky note. And so on the sticky note, I'll have you sticky notes. So on your sticky note, you're going to write 2 things that a quality opinion paper has. So what are 2 things you've learned that an opinion paper has to have to be fantastic? And then once they get done with their sticky notes, I'd have them share with their partner and see if they have the same things or different things. So the ultimate goal, again, would be to have a paper that supports one of those questions about explorers with opinions, with evidence, sort of structured. And like I said, there would be a lot more discussion and a lot more time with 10-year-olds, but in the interest of time on that.
Have you done this one before?
This is not, my Explorer unit was kind of weak, so
So you're beefing it up.
beefing it up.
Awesome.
And I haven't had them do much with writing opinion pieces. At the end of this last year, I had them write, like they had to convince 4th graders that 5th grade was the best grade ever. And so they wrote sort of persuasive papers about that. And they were so-so. So I sort of used that to say, okay, what do I need to do to make that more effective? And so this would be Explorers is sort of in the fall. So that's where that would be. See how it goes.
One of the things I thought was interesting in the 3 papers that you chose is the first paper could have been, except for that first paragraph, of the evidence, could have been more of from their prior knowledge. But the second paper had the statistics and all of that. And the third paper actually had quotes from an actual text, which would be another interesting thing to add in and say, here are different ways you can support. Here's how you could use the evidence and show how they did that, Because interesting that you chose 3 different ones like that. It was good.